Hey everybody, this is Crested Geckos, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about 5 reasons why crested geckos make amazing pets. So throughout my career of keeping reptiles, I've owned a total of 5 different species of gecko, and without a doubt, if I were to recommend one of these particular species to a first-time reptile keeper, I would go with the crested gecko. All in all, crested geckos make fantastic pets regardless of reptile keeping experience. And before I get into explaining why they make such amazing pets, I'm going to show you guys my personal crested gecko, Frito. So right here, licking her nose, this is my personal crested gecko, Frito. I've had her, I believe, since I think 2014, which will put her about 4.5 years old right now. She's such a beautiful specimen, and she's just a great pet. But you can see why they're called crested geckos, because right above her eye you can see the little eyelashes, and that's why sometimes they're called eyelash crested geckos, alongside with the more little pieces of skin that go down her back, as you can see right there. So Phoenix is an extreme harlequin crested gecko. As you can see, she's got quite a few yellows and reds and oranges and some dark browns, and when she fires up like she is right now and she's upset at me, there's just a great contrast between all of her colors, and she looks super pretty. You can also see here that crested geckos have a prehensile tail, much like monkeys do, that come from South America. It's just kind of a really unique, sweet trait. As you can see, she's locked in and ready to go. They also have super advanced toe pads, which gives them the ability to climb up vertical surfaces. I'll go ahead and show you guys that real quick. So I'm going to show you guys an example of how they can climb up vertical surfaces, which is kind of your stereotypical gecko ability that everyone's so amazed by. It is pretty amazing. Look at it. Oh, climbing directly up a flat surface. She's a little pudgy, so it's not the easiest for her, but pretty amazing right here. In the wild, crested geckos are primarily overripe fruit eaters, meaning when a piece of fruit falls off a tree and overripes on the forest floor, these guys are going to come by and lap some of it up. And as a substitute for that diet in the forest, out in the wild, we feed them Pangea or Apache fruit diet, specifically designed for crested geckos, which the easiest way I can compare it is yogurt for geckos. Alright guys, so now that I've walked you through some background information on these crested geckos, I'm going to start talking about why I think they make such immaculate pets. So as I said just a moment ago, these crested geckos are from an island known as New Caledonia. And like I said, New Caledonia is a very temperate location with temperature ranges that span between about 62 to upwards of 80 in the summer months. Very calm, sounds like a great place to live. Excellent temperatures year-round, pretty steady, nothing extremely high, nothing extremely low. A great temperature range for your crested gecko to thrive in is anywhere between 69 to about 75 degrees. You don't want to go much higher than that, because that could come as a detriment to your animal, and only at night should you permit the temperature to go probably below 65. And because these animals don't require any extra heating, that's a major expenditure that you don't have to worry about, assuming your house doesn't get overly hot or overly cold. A quick tip for you guys, in case you do end up getting a crested gecko, to know if their terrarium is too cold, you'll notice that they're burrowing under their substrate. If the temperature in the terrarium or in the room that you're housing your crested gecko gets too low, you'll notice that they're going to start burrowing their body into their substrate, which often is eco-earth or reptibark, any type of humidity-holding substrate, and doing whatever they can to conserve heat and energy. So if you ever notice that happening to your crested gecko, or your crested gecko exhibiting those behaviors, you need to go ahead and raise the temperature. Alright guys, so that wraps up the first reason why crested geckos make such great pets. Let's go ahead and get on to reason number 2. Alright guys, so the second reason why crested geckos make such amazing pets, in my opinion, goes hand in hand with reason number 1. They are incredibly easy to care for. So to prove to you how easy it is to care for a crested gecko, I'm just going to kind of walk you through a weekly routine with Frito here. So every morning when I wake up, I go over to her terrarium and spray it down. As these animals come from a semi-tropical region, they do require some humidity. You want it spiking at about 70 to 75. They are prone to respiratory issues, so you need to make sure that there's a way for the humidity to escape, and that there's a gradient over the day that only spikes right after you spray it and lowers throughout the day until you spray it once again in the evening. And only every other day do I feed her her Crested Gecko diet. So you're not having to do much maintenance at all towards these animals. And as you can see, she's perfectly healthy, perfectly active, beautiful coloration, and a healthy animal with very minimal effort put in from me. Alright guys, so the third reason why I think Crested Geckos make amazing pets has to do with their enclosures. With Crested Geckos, your animal is going to be perfectly healthy regardless of how you set up its cage. So setting up their cage, you can spend as much money as you want, or you can spend as little money as you want. These are incredibly hardy animals, so it doesn't really matter what type of enclosure you put it in. As long as you're meeting their health requirements, they're going to be doing just fine. And as these animals come from a tropical region, which I love animals that come from a tropical region because you can set them up in super awesome naturalistic enclosures, which is what I'm about to show you. So right here, guys, is my Crested Geckos enclosure. Like I said, you can set them up in as a complex as a cage as you want or as simple as a cage you want. Housing these animals is incredibly simple. And also, like I said, I love setting up these tropical enclosures, which is a reason why I love these animals, because it gives me the opportunity to make a super sick cage for this animal that involves all kinds of plants, wood, background, all those things. In contrast, guys, this is my Gargoyle Gecko setup, which is very similar in care and requirement to a Crested Gecko. You can set these animals up in as simple as a cage as you want as well. This right here is just a standard 10-gallon outfitted with a couple fake decor, a tub full of Eco Earth, and 2 toilet paper rolls. With Crested Geckos, you're given the opportunity to set up the cage however you so please, as long as it actually meets the care requirements of the animal. You can go as far into it as you want and make it as elaborate as possible, or make it as simple as possible and just enjoy the pet as it is itself. Alright guys, the fourth reason why I think Crested Geckos are so awesome is their ease in handling. As you guys have watched this video today, you've probably noticed how calm Frito is. There's no attempt to bite. She's only jumped once or twice, and it wasn't out of like fear. She's just born to jump, honestly. They're so calm. Multiple times Frito's fallen asleep in my hands, just kind of hanging out, and they have an incredibly unique skin texture. Pretty difficult to describe. You kind of have to feel it for yourself, but it's sort of like a velvety texture mixed with scales. I know that's very kind of refutes each other, but it's just a really neat texture, and it's kind of fun to feel. Crested Geckos as juveniles are not that easy to hold. It does require a little bit of training for your animal to get used to you, but as you can see, after they've gotten used to you and after they're trained to being handled, they're incredibly calm. You do have to watch out for the jumping. It's important you're either sitting down or close to the ground when you're holding them, but in most cases, Frito she's so lazy acting, she jumps like 3 inches and she's not going to hit the ground or anything, and they're just really fun to hold. Another cool part is you can keep these animals out of their enclosures for a decent amount of time, not enough time to stress them out, of course, but this is because when you take them out of their enclosure, they're pretty much in the same exact temperature as they were while they're in their cage. So unlike a bearded dragon, which I have behind me, who needs to be in like 100-degree temperatures pretty persistently, these Crested Geckos aren't going to be that affected by being out of their enclosure for prolonged periods of time, which makes them even better to handle. Alright guys, so my fifth and final reason for why Crested Geckos are so amazing and make amazing pets is due to all the color patterns they come in. Like I said at the very beginning of the video, Frito, my Crested Gecko, is an extreme Harlequin Crested Gecko, and I'm not great with Morse because I've never bred Crested Geckos, but they come in all kinds of color patterns. If you want a plain looking animal that's just brown, you can get, I think it's called a buckskin, and it's just going to be primarily a tan Crested Gecko. If you want something with a little more flair to it, you can go for a tiger stripe or a tiger Crested Gecko. Or you can go even farther and get an extreme Harlequin or a Harlequin Crested Gecko that has sort of these almost flame patterns on their stomach area, which is just so pretty, especially to find in an animal. Also, another very popular Crested Gecko morph is the Dalmatian pattern. This is a pretty decent example of the Dalmatian pattern. Obviously, one that's bred specifically for dots is going to have
a multitude more dots than Frida does here, but that just kind of gives you a taste for what it would be like.
I'll make sure in the description below to leave a link to a website that has lists and pictures of Crested Gecko morphs, because as you can tell, I'm no expert when it comes to Crested Gecko morphs, as I'm not a breeder. Whatever color you want in a Crested Gecko, if you have an eye for living art, I suppose you could call these animals, you're probably going to find an animal or a Crested Gecko morph that suits your needs. Alright guys, so that pretty much wraps up this video. Crested geckos really do make amazing pets, and if you don't have a crested gecko in your reptile collection or you're thinking about beginning one, I would really highly recommend picking yourself up a crested gecko because they're just excellent pets. Once again guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, go ahead and slam that subscribe button. Make sure to turn on post notifications so you guys can be notified of each and every one of my videos that I upload. Guys, remember to hit that like button as hard as you possibly can, and if you have any comments or questions, just go ahead down low in the comment section and feel free to ask me or give me a recommendation. As always guys, this is Crested Geckos. I'll see you all in the next one.